Welcome to another episode of What's the Hype podcast.
The building. And an interception, and you're not down by 10 anymore. Andre Howe, his second interception.
To get you the information that you need to start your own business and do your own thing.
And I felt like it gave me a good perspective.
I was not the first person to go through what I went through.
Welcome to another episode of What's the Hype podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Pope, a.k.a. the Pod Disciple.
I'm your coach, Andre Howe.
Man, Drake, we at it again, man. We off to another great special guest, man. I'm so excited to kind of dive into this young man's story, just kind of talk about some of the things he's faced along the way and just how he's been able to pivot and create his own lane and do some things. I mean, he is Texas born, but California raised. First team all league, all conference, all state, back-to-back CIF championships in 2007, 2008. He lettered in football, track, and basketball. He 10th all-time in receptions at the University of Utah, former NFL and CFL player, speaker, and founder of Maximizing the Student Athlete. With no further ado, I want to welcome to the podcast Mr. Kenneth Scott. Welcome to the podcast.
What's going on, man? That was a great introduction, man. Myself personally, I would have stumbled over a lot of it, but you did great.
Man, I appreciate that coming from a speaker, man. I'm trying to work on those skills, but man, those are your accomplishments. I'm just honored to be able to read those off, man. I mean, you've done quite a bit, man. So just a little bit again. Thanks for joining our podcast. We appreciate you for joining us.
Man, definitely.
So what we like to do, I'll tell you a little bit about our podcast. Our podcast is really just about highlighting individuals' stories and sports and how they was able to make it to, achieve those goals and make it to the level they made it to, and just kind of talk about some of the challenges and circumstances they faced along the way, just for some of those younger kids coming behind to kind of understand a little bit more about the industry. So when we start, man, we like to start from the beginning, man. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, a little bit about your family and what it was like growing up.
Yeah, man, just like you said, Texas born, but Cali raised. You know, I was born in Galveston, Texas. But the interesting part about that is that I'm not from Galveston. My family is from Houston, the southwest side of Houston. And so I had to be born in Galveston because my mom had complications with her health conditions. And so she was forced to have to go way out there to birth me. And so we lived out there. I mean, I was birthed there. Like I said, southwest side of Houston I was raised until I was 4. And then me and my mother, we moved to California then for about until my teen year in high school. And so, I was raised in Inland Empire, San Bernardino, California, to be specific, and moved around the Rialto, California area. My mother, she was strong-willed, single mother, raising a young boy who was really ambitious. And so for me, because my mother was sick, we were living off Section 8, food stamps, SSI checks, and different welfare programs. So early on, for me, it was just all about how can I help my mom. That's really my main motivation behind everything, because I didn't have a father growing up. It's weird because my father, he lived like 30 minutes from me, but he never really seen me. And so my stepfather growing up had to fill his shoes and step into his role. And he did an amazing job as far as everything that I was able to accomplish from that. And so the area I grew up in, in California, it is California. So, y'all got gangs, drugs, violence, like you name it, especially in the area we was from in the Section 8 area. And so, African-American, Hispanic community, we had feuds with each other, of course, but, we had some Caucasians, but the Caucasians that you would run into it with, if you didn't see them, you would think that they was African-American. Those are the type of Caucasians we was with. And so, just my background growing up was just a lot of trying to overcome adversity, trying to propel to the next stage. So that's all it is in a little nutshell.
So when did you first start playing sports? Which sport and who inspired you early on?
Yeah, so as far as the first time I played sports, I believe it was 9 years old. I was going to my cousin Casey's practice. It was a junior All-American football league. It's a little league. And then I was on the sideline playing catch with my uncle. And so the coaches was looking at me, was like, oh, shoot, who this cat, 9-year-old kid catching with his hands, eyes to the tuck, you feel me? Like, I didn't do no body catches. I'm all snagging. And so the coaches after the practice came over to me and was like, where you play at? And I'm looking at my uncle like, I don't play nowhere. And so obviously, like I said, my mom, we didn't have the funds to be able to put me on the team. So they created like a sponsorship program. So shoot, the next week I was on the squad playing against the older guys because, I was a young cat playing with the 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds. And so that's when I first got a glimpse of football. But to be honest with you, I hated football growing up. It just wasn't me. I was a basketball player. I would kind of resemble my game to Russ Westbrook. You feel me? And I'm an all-star.
Okay. Good shoes.
You feel me? But the reason why I would say Russ Westbrook is because, my passion. When I was out on the basketball court, I just was very passionate about what I did. I was athletic, and really that's what it was, athletic and passionate. You know what I'm saying? I probably wasn't the best shooter, but best believe you're going to hear me bark at you every single time down the floor. And so, who inspired me growing up was my stepfather. That's mainly who it was as far as sports and everything. Just making me become the best version of myself I could be every day, no matter what it was. And then obviously my life circumstances at home, just trying to make sure we get into a better place and things of that nature as far as our economic situation was stood for. So that's just a little bit about my background there.
So, so many individuals whose story is just similar to yours when we talk about just the dynamics of sports in our community. Just speaking for myself, from in the city of Miami, public housing, mom on government assistance, just like you, single parent. So I just, there's similarities in your story and just some of the challenges that I identify with. But a lot of times our individuals, our athletes from our community have that similar story. So definitely commend you, because it could have been easy for you to go the wrong way, right?
Real quick.
So many opportunities, right? And for you to kind of navigate that and be able to kind of, find a way for yourself, man, I commend that, because again, I know how easy it was. It could have been for you to kind of go the wrong way. But as you mentioned, man, you had, a guy to kind of step up in your life and kind of inspire you. Let's talk about, high school, right? Talk a little bit about the sports of high school, your individual success and overall high school success. What school did you go to?
Yeah, man. And as far as high school, I went to Colony High School. It's in Ontario, California. I wasn't even supposed to go to that high school. So like I said, the environment I was in, my mother and my stepfather at the time wanted me to make new friends. And so they shipped me out about 30, 45 minutes to a school in Ontario, which was Colony.
How did you feel about that? How did you feel about that?
Man, I was hurt.
Going to another school?
Man, I was hurt. I was like, literally, I stepped on campus. I'm like, man, I ain't know nobody. And then literally from the the cafeteria area, one of my homeboys from like my area was like, yo, and I looked, I'm like, thank God I know somebody, at least somebody. And so it kind of made that transition a little easier for me because I knew one person out of everybody on the campus. But as far as my team success in football, it was great. My freshman year, I was able to be on varsity. I didn't start or anything, but I was getting some playing time. But it was my sophomore year that really, propelled my career. Luckily for me, like I said, the 2007 year was my freshman year. We won the championship. But the 2008 year was more special because I actually had some involvement in it. I was a wide receiver and tight end on that team. And my favorite moments was the championship game because when we did the ace package, obviously 2 tight ends, it was me and my homeboy Bobby Wagner, who plays for the Seahawks. He was the other tight end. Yeah, our championship, we went ham. We had like 6 tugs. I had 2. I think he had like 3 or 4 or something like that. It was crazy. We was just going ham. But that year was great. We had a great team. I ended off team-wise senior year really good. We didn't miss the playoffs. We got booted out of the playoffs my senior year. I wish we would have won a championship to seal it up. But team-wise, we did good. Individually, I think it was a success because, where I ended up, I was a 4-star recruit, number 34 ranked in my position in the nation. So I felt good. You know what I'm saying? Pre-recording, we stayed some of the people who was in our, recruiting class. So I felt good at being amongst those names and it kind of let me know I was on the right path. Like, you feel me, as far as getting to the next level. And so when I came in my freshman year, there was a guy by the name of Maurice Shaw. He was the only reason why I wore number 2. And so he was a similar build to me. Like when I first seen him, I was like, yeah, he got it. Like that's it right there. And so I try to literally imitate everything he did, from the stance to literally everything. If I remember I put on Facebook like a picture of me and a picture of him side by side, and nobody could really tell the difference because I imitated him that much. It was crazy. And so what I did was all his stats from freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, I broke it up to make those my goals. I ended up crushing them. And then one of my other goals was to be the highest recruit coming out of high school in that school, because we had Omar Bolden as well, who played for the Denver Broncos there. And then obviously Bobby Wagner, and then and also to get a college scholarship to be able to go on to the next level. So as far as a team-wise, heck of a team. Individual-wise, I feel like, you know, I did a lot of things and was able to overcome some moments too to be successful.
Man, to be 34 in that class, as we previously mentioned, guys like Tyrann Mathieu and DeAndre Hopkins and Keenan Allen, man, that was, you know,
Robert Woods
to be ranked amongst those guys, man.
Yeah.
Jordan Matthews was in that. That was your class too, right, Dre?
My boy, yeah, my boy.
Yeah. So all-time leading reception leader in the SEC history, All-American. Like, so just to kind of, you know, you guys had a heck of a recruiting class that year.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Bobby Wagner, man, might be going down as one of the, if not one of the greatest linebackers of all time. That's crazy that you.
You know what's funny about Bobby Wagner? He wanted to be a tight end so bad. Like, he thought he was like the tight end. Like, he was gonna be the next Tony Gonzalez or something. Like, the dude got hands. He got stickums. Like, he wasn't the highly recruited guy out of high school at all. He had like UNLV, like Utah State. That's where he ultimately ended up going. But like, he didn't have a lot of schools like recruiting him because, you know, he was going tight end. But on defense, that boy in high school did not miss a tackle. Like, he did not. It was crazy.
NFL sound like how it is in NFL. He don't miss a tackle.
Wow.
So you telling me his primary position that he wanted to really play was tight end, but he still played linebacker on defense as well. But he really was interested in tight end.
That's what he wanted. That dude had hands. Like, the dude had hands, bro. I'm trying to tell you. And on the basketball court, he thought he was the smoothest guy too. But he had a little post game, but it was cool. But nah, it's crazy to hear his story. Like, he really wants tight end was his thing in high school.
Well, talk about your recruiting process.
Oh man, that was fun. I guess I'll start it off that sophomore year. Sophomore year, had a good year. And my coaches did a really good job in high school of giving us that exposure. So after my sophomore year, had a good year. I went to a Nike camp, and that's where like Matt Barkley and them was there. And I showed out. You know, I started getting some buzz. And this is like when I first started like media training with my step pop, because I made the ultimate mistake ever a recruit can make in freaking media training. So like, the dude set me up. I ain't gonna lie, he set me up something vicious because he knew like I used to go to USC practices and games when they give us tickets. So I was a big USC person. I'm wearing sweatshirts around the school. I'm that type of USC guy. And after the camp, we was at a USC Nike camp, and I'm balling out. Pete Carroll give me hot fives after I'm, you know, making plays and stuff. And so he asked me the question after the camp. He was like, "Yo, if USC offered you, would you commit right now?" He said it on camera. I was like, "Of course I'm committing right now. If he offered me right now, I'm committing on the spot right now." That messed up my whole recruiting, like ever, because every school was slow playing me. They was like, "We want to see what USC gonna do because we know how bad you want it." So after that moment, I literally, after every interview, my options are open. I don't want, like, I literally had to spin it around, like, because people were not trying to recruit me. And I was like, "Yo, this is bad." But it was fun though. You know, I think that was my first sales job as far as that goes. And the reason why I say it was my first sales job, and kind of coincidentally is the reason why I'm doing what I want to do now as far as like workshops for student athletes, is that, you know, when I was a sophomore, I was getting that exposure. I understood the product that I had, which was me, was hot on the market. You know, I was a big receiver. I was 6'3", 190 in high school. And so it's like, I knew my product. And so, you know, what I did was I took all the Division I schools, put them on a little paper. I wish we had Excel back then, or I knew about it. And I just, you know, put them in columns like, hey, who's the coach? What's the phone number, the email, the cell phone, all that. And what I did was I broke it up like 25 to 30 contact of schools a week. to reach out to them on a monthly or biweekly basis. And so like I'm over here acting as if this is a sales job. I'm emailing them, I'm calling them, I'm acting as my own agent, like in high school. You feel me? And so I started creating buzz. And so, you know, the result of that was, you know, like September 1st, junior year, that, you know, obviously they can start speaking out to you. You know, I remember a fax coming in from Tennessee, you know, Philip Fulmer, he offered me my first scholarship right there. And I was like, dang, this stuff works. Like that's all I had to do. Right. But the recruiting process was fun. You know, I didn't handle a lot of stuff that I needed to handle academically. I thought C's was straight. Like I literally just went to class and just wanted a C. I would get A's in homework. I was F'ing and D's in tests. Like, so my grade would even out to a C. And so like I thought, you know, a 2.3 grade point average was good. I'm like, look, I'm not failing, but I ain't excelling either. You know, I only had A's and B's in like the elective classes. You know what I'm saying? Like what was that, pottery type stuff and home economics. Yeah, I had, you know, that was me. I'm A's and B's in that. And so I ran across Stanford one day. They came to my school and they looked at my transcripts. They literally just put their head down. Like, I can't even bring you back to the coach. Like, you a 2.3, you ain't gonna make it. You ain't even took your ACT or SAT yet. And then when I finally took my SAT, I didn't even take the SAT. I took the ACT because I was so far off of everything. I'm like, what is that? Like, I'm trying to get my act together right now. What's up? And so I took it. I didn't do well in the ACT. I failed it. Well, I didn't fail it, but I ended up getting a good grade. So that hindered me too, because I not only did I say the stupid stuff in the media, but I also had bad academics too. And so that derailed a lot of opportunities for me. And, you know, it sucked for the most part, you know, during that time. But over time, it got better and better. I cleaned up my act and took some classes in the summer to get my academics straight. But as far as the recruiting process, it was a roller coaster, a lot of highs, a lot of lows. But, you know, ultimately, you know, I made a great decision as far as going to the University of Utah for me personally, because I felt like the culture there was something that I can expand outside of just sports, you know, as far as the community, you know, things of that nature. And so I was able to build a brand, you know, through the University of Utah from that. So, you know, my recruiting process, in my eyes, I believe it was a success just because of the journey that I went through dealing with it.
So as you mentioned, University of Utah, who was else? Who was the close second or third? What other school might have been also in contention?
Yeah, that wavered depending on the day, to be honest with you, because I didn't know whether I wanted to play defense or stay offense, because I was thinking about going to Colorado as a safety. And so I know Dre over there like, oh, well, you don't know about that safety. What you talking about? But nah, I was really thinking about going playing safety at Colorado. But I was like, nah, because at that time it was in the Big 12. And I was like, okay. But it was Utah, Colorado, because it was the Big 12. I was thinking about Michigan State too, but it was too far away from home. And I'm like, I'm a mama's boy. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm like, nah, I can't go too far. I gotta be close proximity. But and then Fresno State. Fresno State was another one because David Carlo brother Derek was there at that time, or going there at that time, or something like that. But I remember going on a visit and I seen him in the locker room. I was chatting with him, and yeah, so Fresno State was in there too.
Man, that Cali recruiting. So my best friend played for the University of Colorado, so he played with a lot of those guys. They got drafted, Jimmy Smith, and some of those other guys that was at Colorado. So he was there. His last year was 2009, so right before you left. But that Colorado recruiting pipeline from, you know, California, even Utah, like that West Coast recruiting thing is a little different, especially coming from us in like the Southeast, Florida and stuff like that. We don't typically get recruited to the West Coast. So that California got a strong connection over there. But one other thing I wanted to mention, because we had a guy on our podcast, and he wrote a book called The Recruit's Playbook. His name is Larry Hart, and he talked about like not being aware of academic eligibility as an athlete in high school, just not knowing, not taking the test until the last time he could take it. Same for me. I took the ACT the last time I could take it, and that hindered me from being able to play right away. But that's just a thing. Like, we really, you may hear it in passing, or coaching may mention it, But for whatever reason, man, we don't really understand that concept. So that book that he wrote is really to just kind of help guys really be aware of that, man. So
I love that.
Because so many of our guys miss out on opportunity. Because I'm sure we all know guys that was talented enough, just didn't have the grades to take it to the next level. So with that being said, man, you mentioned Utah. What was the biggest adjustment for you coming from high school in California, now being at Utah as a freshman? What was the biggest adjustment?
I ain't gonna lie, that elevation, that thing was crazy. I thought I was about to die. I know I was getting injured a lot, but shoot, man, injury was in my throat. I was about to die. But I think the biggest thing was just me trying to understand how I can add value. I ain't gonna lie, I'm not a special teams guy. I don't do special teams. I think that was one of my hindrances. I did not do special teams. I didn't want to do kickoff return, nothing. Don't put me on special teams. I think that was my hindrance. And I'm just trying to find my niche, my role, my value to the team. And so I think the biggest adjustment was that, trying to figure out how I can fit in to make an immediate impact. Obviously, going in, I'm like, look, I'm an X receiver. I'm trying to get the ball type of thing. And I really have to understand, like, okay, the needs of the offense at that time was someone at the Z spot, so I just had to adjust, took my pride away. I mean, not saying like Z spot is bad or anything. It's just that, the X get all the glory. So I just had to figure out like how I can maneuver through and make my presence known at the Z spot initially coming in, and then I can start making my way and building my name through it. So I think that would be the biggest adjustment, just trying to figure out what your niche is going to be and, the value you can bring early on.
Let me, before Dre get into this question, let me make sure I definitely highlight this. Being around the NFL, and Dre can speak to this too, and you mentioned, but the ability to play special teams really can change everything as far as a career in the NFL. There's literally guys who made NFL teams who didn't have a down of offense or defense, but made it to the NFL. Like, how crazy is that? You know what I mean? Like, they carved out a way to, they understood special teams, understood the importance of special teams. Even now, they drafting special team players now. Like, they drafting them.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But that just, something for young guys to be aware of. Like, the more you can do in terms of special teams, and if your end goal is NFL, like, that's a great opportunity for you.
Talk about your injury in camp and how did it happen?
Man. So, it was, I was making moves, man. I'm trying to tell you, I was making moves. Obviously, I was a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, right? So all the buzz was coming to me. I'm a freshman. I'm projected to be in that starting lineup. Well, basically, in our offense, 2 deep is starting lineup because we rotate every 2 plays. So I was making my way and progressing towards there. It was about a week before the first game. We was in the speed and space drill where it's a defender against you and the defender one-on-one. You have to make a miss and finish across the goal line. And so, I did my little shimmy, did my thing, as big receivers try to do. And then I stiff-armed the guy, but as I stiff-armed him into my ankle. And I tore all the ligaments out of my ankle. It took me a little while to get up, and I was like, okay. And then I sat back down. My coach thought I was playing. I'm a jokester at times. He thought I was playing. He was like, how do you get up? Everybody's saying, like, get up, man, you play too much. I'm like, I can't, man, I can't. Look at this. And I lifted my legs, and it was like, oh. Get carted off the field, and it was it from there. It was a wrap for me. So that's how the injury happened. And the injury was I tore all the ligaments out of my ankle to where they had to reconstruct it back to where it was originally.
Man, that had to be devastating, man. Just, coming in as a freshman, opportunity to play, and then a week before the first game.
Yeah, man. I made my way up to the 2 deep. I'm in the rotation. Yeah, it was crazy, man. That was a lot of hardship.
So that put you out your whole freshman year. So that just didn't go as you planned. How again, the recovery process, I'm sure that was a grind and just trying to get back. But how was it for you to talk about that, a little bit of that process of getting back, and then to actually get that first catch, that first pass against Arizona State, man? And just how was that for you?
Man, the rehab process was crazy. It was crazy because during that time, you're trying to figure out, like, how can I get back to what I was, but also be better than what I was. So that was, like, the hardest part for me. Like, every day I was frustrated because I'm like, man, I ain't there yet. Like, I ain't got that same kick that I had. Like, you feel me? I I can't stick like on my rough as I can, especially on this one side. And so that part was frustrating. And so I tried to speed up the process of my healing. And so my trainer one day, he caught me. I ain't gonna lie. They was hearing rumblings of me not riding on the scooter. You know, you have to put your leg up on the scooter, and they heard rumblings. The training room heard rumblings around campus. I didn't have my scooter, and I was walking on my calf. So he pulled up and he saw me, and I said, God dang it. And so like he get back to the training room, he seen my calf that I was walking on it, and he just flat out told me, he was like, look, all these little aspirations that you got to try to get to the next level or try to get your mom a better place or do this for your family, that stuff ain't gonna happen. You over here messing around on your leg. And so that hit me deep. And so from that point, like my end of my freshman year into my red shirt freshman year, a lot of people don't know, but like in my mental space, I wasn't there like during that time because I'm seeing people out on the field. Like I wasn't hating or anything, but it's like, man, I should be out there type thing. And it did something to me. I wanted to go back home to California. My coach at the time was like, nah, you ain't doing that. He allowed me to stay at his house and he will feed me like good, I ain't gonna lie, good old nice course meal, like salmon and stuff. I was like, let me fake this injury a little bit more. But but he would feed me, you know what I'm saying? And so like during that time I was depressed. And a lot of people don't know, like during the summer, my redshirt freshman year heading into the season, the summer, I wasn't with the team. You know, I got suspended. I was admitted into counseling for mental health. And so, yeah, I was 3 times a week, about 4 or 5 hours a day, where I would go and meet with my counselor. And so that process right there, it had me going through stuff. And it was really built up a lot of stuff because I had anger and anxiety. The real process was just me putting so much pressure on trying to make it. That was the biggest thing, that pressure on me trying to make it be more than what I am. And then, so like that moment at Arizona State, you know, I didn't play it that much during the first couple of weeks because I'm getting back into the groove of things. And so that Arizona State game, I think I started that game too, I think. And my homeboy Omar Bolden was on that team too, who I played with in high school. And so like, I remember the game was a play specifically designed for me, a little good old flea flicker. I remember him tossing that thing up, and then shoot, I went up and went and got it over 2 people. That's just me. That was the type of receiver I was, just going over people, snatching that thing, third down type of possession receiver. So that moment right there on the stage, I was like, oh yeah, I'm back. Like every time I had a catch too, like I said about the passionate thing, like Russ West, like I'm letting people know, like, look, like, you know what I'm saying? So that was a delight for me as far as getting that catch for sure.
Man, the stuff that you talk about from as far as mental health, again, now athletes are speaking out more about it now, but just having that support around you, obviously helped you, overcome it. But prior to that, like there wasn't a whole lot of support around mental health, right? And especially growing up as athletes in the city, the stuff that you talk about, you know, putting all that pressure on yourself to provide for your family. And that's PTSD and that thing, some of the stuff you're seeing growing up, man, like it's so much that we have to unpack. And I say this all the time because I used to sit in draft meetings and the team personnel will love the passion from an athlete, but on the other side of it, that passion comes from somewhere. So they don't like that side of it, right? Like, you know, the violence or whatever that they're exposed to. So I used to always say, man, you guys want that on the field, but you guys are not creating an environment to really address what it is that create that passion. You know what I'm saying? Like some of that stuff that is really, you know, be the undoing of some of the guys, right? Like some of the mistakes they make along the way. But that's where I feel like they're making some progress. But I really think if they really was to focus on the complete development of the athlete, man, things would be, I mean, you're talking about changes could be made drastically.
Yeah, it's crazy that you say that because I guess I'm trying to say politically correct. Like as the media, then you allowed us athletes to like really start expressing our backgrounds a little bit more. And so like during college, and I used to give, obviously media stuff, they used to come to me and then I used to do these YouTube videos like back home. And they just started asking me questions about my background. And at first I was nervous to say like the people I was associated with. And then I was like, you know what the heck? I'm just going to show y'all the real me. And so, you know, I was telling them like how, you know, a lot of my pressure came from like my friends that were in those back home in those situations. And like, I would get letters from him in jail. Like, man, it's crazy. I just got done watching you on TV. You like a local celebrity in here. Like, keep doing what you're doing, bro. Like, a lot of people proud of you. And it's like, dang, like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I don't know, it's just a lot into it. And so like, you know, carrying those types of things too, it's like you got a lot on your back and that pressure and it can fold on you. And I was nervous and scared at first to like broadcast those type of things to the media because I felt like, shoot, here we go, another guy, you know what I'm saying?
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Who were some of your teammates that played in the NFL? Did you ever feel like you could possibly have a chance to play in the NFL?
Yeah, like for me, literally, it started from in high school. Seeing Omar Bolden be the first one, you know, that I played with, you know, go to the league. Then Bobby Wagner following up right after. I'm like, for sure I can go. Like, I'm with these dudes. I'm with these cats. And then every day in practice, literally every defensive back I went like in practice with, from my freshman year in college to the end, every single cornerback on my team went to the NFL. I'm like, bro, if I'm going against you, mopping you every day in practice, I know for sure I can go to the league. And then like the people I'm playing against, like the obviously the USCs, UCLAs, you playing against me in the league. I'm like, hold on. So I wasn't the other receiver, like, so it's like, so I felt like confident in it. Like, okay, I could for sure have a chance, at least a chance, like an opportunity, something. Like I may not be drafted or it may not be good, but I could have a chance, minimum. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I've always had that confidence level. I could because I'm in the perfect situation where the people around me are doing it. So then since the people around me in the environment is doing it, shit, I have no other choice but to be in there. So that's the way I felt, you know, because of my, you know, culture at Utah and before.
So as he mentioned, you know, just some of those guys that you were playing against really gave you that confidence. But let's talk about 2013. So, you know, after getting your feet back under you and, you know, moving, you know, kind of continue to build that up, you know, in the first game, you had another season ending injury. Talk about what happened and just how you dealt with yet another injury.
Man, that tested me like no other. That moment right there tested me like no other. Because before that year, my sophomore year, I had a pretty good year. And during the summer, I wasn't supposed to, but a lot of agents was reaching out to me. And so I would act as if we just so happily met each other at lunch that day, you know? And so, you know, they were telling me like, man, look, like, hey, you did really good last year. You're a big receiver. You're about 6'3", 216. You're a big receiver. The way you play, you know, it fits the mold, you know, what they're looking for. Man, you're getting Dennis Erickson this upcoming season as your offensive coordinator. Every receiver he had in the past did this, whoop-de-whoop. So you're applying for this year. So I'm like, dang, you keep juicing my head up for sure. And so, so the season comes, 9 plays in the game, man. I'm on the slot on the left-hand side. The running back, it's a pass play. The running back flares out the back and he catches it. Kyle Fackrell from Utah State tackles the dude, tackles my running back. He hits him and he ran right into the bottom of my ankle. I was like, wow, where's the good karma supposed to be for the receivers that block? Like, you know what I mean? I could have easily tried to run my guy off, but I'm over here doing some dirty work trying to block my guy. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, he ended up laying on my ankle, tearing all the ligaments out of my other ankle I didn't do, and my other ankle, and then broke my fibula too. And so I'm just on the ground laying there. I can't feel nothing. I knew something was wrong. I said, yeah, I ain't even gonna try to get up. I knew something was wrong. And man, that's what happened, man. Like, they carted me off the field. And like, it's funny because it's not funny, but like, it seemed like the motto with my football story has always been around injuries. Like every time I get to a point where I'm like, I'm doing good, injured. Like, what's up? Like, and so that was hard for me because I forgot to mention, you know, in high school, my junior year, heading into my senior year, the spring of my junior year, I was running track. You know, I'm flat-footed. And so I don't really run properly as far as like how they say, hey, you're supposed to be on your balls and toes and stuff. So I developed shin splint in my tibia. And then that shin splint, I didn't really take care of it that much because our treatment and our training, we wasn't really that great in high school. And so it developed into a stress fracture on my tibia. And so in high school, heading up to my senior year, I had to wear a stimulator on my leg for 10 hours a day to try to heal that bone. And so if I didn't wear that stimulator, if someone hit my leg, my tibia was just like that. And so they were thinking about putting a rod in my leg, in my tibia, in my leg to go all the way down my tibia to make it heal. But you know, we didn't end up doing that because we figured out to be a complete red flag. Like, dude got a rod in his leg. And then on top of that, the funny thing about my senior year in high school, I had to wear shin guards. Like I was a soccer player out there thinking I'm Messi or something. I had to wear shin guards, dog, shin guards. You ever seen a football player wear shin guards?
Never seen it.
I've seen that, dog.
Bruh, I wore shin guards my senior year throughout the whole year. Like, it was crazy, man. So, you know, that's what my career has been around. Just injury after injury after injury after injury. Like, I'm like, yo, what's going on, bro? Like, come on, what's up? God, what's up? You know what I'm saying? So, and the crazy part about the 2013 year, my homeboy on the other side, he went off, had over 1,000 yards that year. Hella buzz. The Litnikoff and all that stuff. And I'm sitting here like, dang. Like, I'm not hating, though. I'm not hating. I'm like, dang. Like, what could have been? Like, you know what I'm saying? And that year, because every year me and him had the same yardage, same everything, every year. And it's that one year where he just took off. And that's the year I was injured. And I was like, dang, what could have been? Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, come on, God, what's up? Like, what's up, man? Like, I thought you had me. Like, you know what I'm saying? So those thoughts was going in my mind that whole time after I got injured the second time. I ain't gonna lie, I wanted to quit. Bro. I was like, man, this is not for me right now. And that's where my mind was at during that time. I was depressed.
Wow. Man, that's crazy. So after the injury, you came back to lead the team in reception and tied for touchdowns and had your best game against your dad, the alma mater. Talk about how that felt and the work that went in getting back to playing at the level.
Man, it meant everything. My senior year meant everything. It was more about like redemption in a way. Because, you know, battling through that, the depression, I didn't even want to go to practice anymore because it just was like, man, I'm making my way back up so much. I'm hitting to the point where I'm in all sentences just knocked down. And so throughout that whole year, I'm rehabbing. I'm on a limbo, dealing with the NCAA. You know how they ain't really for us athletes. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm in limbo with them, trying to get my 6th year to make sure that this won't be my last year. And so, you know, so I'm dealing with that, making sure that I can get another year of eligibility because of this. And so luckily I was able to get granted. And then, you know, the following year, you know, it was a good scenario for me. I was able to, you know, come back and then do the things I needed to do. And so leading up to that game, it was the second game of the year, but the first game of the year when I was running out, you know, the crowd went crazy because they know the story. They know all my backstory about everything. The crowd went crazy. I scored my first touchdown. The crowd went crazy. Like, because they call me the Dark Knight. They call me Batman, you know. And so you see Batman flags in the stands, and then you see my, like, cutout picture in the freaking student section because, like, you know, all those moments of the rehab and the dark days meant everything to me. So when I was going against Fresno State, you know, it meant a lot because, you know, the background about my stepfather. So my stepfather, he went to Fresno State, but he didn't complete it because of he was too involved into the streets. Mm. And so he didn't complete his tenure at Fresno State. And so, you know, my everything around from my grandma lived right across the street from actual Fresno State, University of Fresno State. And my brothers, they from Fresno. My cousins, all of them, they from Fresno. And so, like, man, that game Fresno State meant everything to me. Everybody was watching. I wish it was in Fresno at that time, but everybody was watching. I remember my first touchdown, quarterback threw it up. I'm off, dude. Give me that. Then I did my little, you know, my little thing I do to the crowd, you know, getting a little paparazzi doing the thing. And then the second touchdown, you know, I caught it, broke a lot of tackles. And the second touchdown meant a lot because, you know, after the game, I watched the TV copy and the commentators, Yogi Roth, was saying, you know, he was talking about my story. And they put the picture of, like, the screws that was this long that's in my leg, the 2 screws. And they were just talking about, like, how much, you know, I've been battling back to get to this moment. And so he was just parading not even the success that I was, just the journey and how I just kept overcome adversity, you know. And so that meant a lot to me just to hear from a commentator standpoint speaking about that. And so, but yeah, man, that moment meant everything to me, just everything in general.
Man, for sure. As you mentioned, man, just that challenge of your getting that 6-year eligibility, and it's just so many dynamics when you talk about the NCAA, man. It's just it's a whole different conversation, man. And we can talk about that for days, man. But battling that to finally, you know, to be able to get that, become a team captain, you know, finish your career with back-to-back, you know what I'm saying, bowl wins, you know, talk about how special just that opportunity was for you to kind of end your career on that note.
Man, it was awesome. The reason why my last bowl game win was awesome was because it was against our rival, BYU. Another injury story. Senior game, the game before my bowl game, I didn't finish the game. After I scored a touchdown in my senior game, they threw a deep pass to me, and something happened to where me and the defender's legs got tangled up, and I just fell to the ground. And so what happened was I ended up getting turf toe. Luckily, I ain't gonna lie, I thought the worst. But luckily, it was just turf toe. I mean, turf toe is bad, but it ain't that bad. It's just sprained big toe. And I didn't finish that game. I didn't even practice all the way up to the bowl game. So I just come.
Luckily you had a few weeks off, right?
Yeah, I had a few weeks off, but I ain't gonna lie. You know, that one shot helped me a lot. You know, I ain't feel nothing. And, you know, I ain't feel nothing. I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't feel nothing that game. But I was like, I can't go out my senior year like that, like not playing in the bowl game. And so, you know, they gave me the shot after I signed off on the waiver, and I was able to play. And that game was amazing. You know, it was a rivalry game. You know, it's always intense against the team down south at BYU. It was amazing. You know, we was up 35-7, and miraculously, I don't know how it happened. They came back and made a tight, close game, but we still edged them out to win. But, you know, it was a great cap to, you know, a phenomenal season that we had that year, making it all the way up to number 3 in the nation, and then obviously winning the bowl game.
How was your pre-draft experiences? And did you take any draft visits? Where do you think you will end up?
The pre-draft experience was eventful. I'm gonna be honest. I made a lot of mistakes, decisions-wise. I'm not gonna put down my agent. I think he did a tremendous job, but I felt like I should have went with someone else because I feel like they would have got me in a better position to be in front of people. So my bowl game, it was in Vegas. Keyshawn Johnson came down, you know, to obviously hang out in Vegas, and this was the time where he was creating his firm's agents, right? And so he just wanted a firm where it was just receivers. And this is why I felt like I made a mistake, because I should have went with him. And the reason why I should have went with Keyshawn was because he has connections, because it's really about all who you know. But I feel like for me, it would have been a conflict of interest because he had one of the all receivers, and I didn't know how he was going to put me in front of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we had Mike Thomas, Bryce Tregg, and so forth. And so I was like, man, how would he position me in front of him? So that was my only con about it. But I feel like when I was talking to my wife, and I was like, man, I should have went with him, you know, because he could at least put me in position because he knows people. So that part, you know, I think I should have done better. But and in the training part, I went to a great facility. It was in Vancouver, Washington, great facility. However, I felt I should have went with Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall had DM'd me. He was like, hey, where are you training at? And I was like, oh, I'm training at Whoopie Whoop and stuff like that. And I should have accepted his invitation to train with him. And for obviously, he's a big receiver. He knows receivers. It's just, I made a poor decision in not declining that. I still even got the DM of him DMing me. I made a bad decision on that part. I should have trained with him because I believe he was training with Michael Johnson too, the Olympic guy. Yeah, and so I felt I made a bad decision on that part because I didn't do that too. So as far as my pre-draft experience, I did a lot of things wrong just as far as positioning wise. But you know, going through that motion, luckily for me, the only con that I had about me was obviously my injuries and how fast is he. So my 40-yard dash was everything. Obviously, I didn't listen to them about the 40-yard dash because I'm like, I should have went. If you just think about it, like 40-yard dash, oh, you should have just went with the Olympic guy. Like, duh, like that's all they cared about from me. But I didn't think about that. And so I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I ran a horrible 40. The 40 sucked. I ain't gonna lie. I don't want to say what 40 I ran. It was horrible. Horrible. My homeboy Anthony Denham, I think you played with him in the Texans. He was on practice.
Yeah, my boy.
Yeah, he was with me at Utah. Oh. And so he was smart, and I wish I would have made that same decision. He was a receiver too, the same year. But he switched from receiver to tight end.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. The 40 I ran, it would have been good for a tight end. You know, I'm 6'3", 220. I could have easily put 10 pounds on, like, you know what I'm saying, and made that transition. That's where the league's going now. But I didn't think that far ahead. So pre-draft, everything outside the decisions on my agent, the training, and, understanding the 40 side, I killed everything else. I almost did a 40-inch vertical. I killed everything. Almost, I think 21 on the bench. They only counted 17. I was pissed. But in the bench, 666, and I know that's a horrible number, but 666 in the L drill. I killed all my other numbers. It's just a 40-yard dash, and every NFL team was there. Even half of the CFL teams was there. And so that pre-draft experience for me, it didn't bode too well because of those decisions I made. And so I wasn't fortunate to take the trips to the teams. However, I did get 14 calls. I wish I didn't change my phone so I can keep the voicemails, but, it's just memory sake. But, I had 14 teams reach out to me, obviously, to update the contact information for obviously draft purposes and stuff like that. But yeah, man, that was my experience. My stubbornness led me to where I'm at, which isn't a bad thing. It was just all experience. But yeah, I didn't take any visits. Pre-draft experience could have been a lot better.
So a couple things here. Just to highlight, right? Injuries. You don't get picked and proud on like you do when you get ready for the NFL draft. So those that go to the combine, Drake can attest to, we've had a number of guests come on and talk about them being just evaluated on every part of their physical, every injury. Like they're so meticulous about that. So that's something that, obviously you had two, right? Both legs, you know what I'm saying, that you had that against you. But as you mentioned, some of the guys who offered you opportunities, Keyshawn Johnson, having connections and, just feeling like you had opportunity or better opportunity somewhere else. And then even with Brandon Marshall, I think when I speak about draft preparation, because I was so tight to that process, man, being prepared for draft preparation and just how you interact with front office members, scouts, GMs, guys think the problem is they're used to the recruiting process of college.
Yeah.
The NFL is totally different. So in high school, if you being highly recruited, everybody's coming after you. You can kind of move how you want to move. But when you talk about the process for the NFL draft, the more accessible you are, the more just kind of quote unquote friendly you are, helps your chances. You know what I mean? And then, it just kind of helps you be more on the minds of guys. So even when it comes to even later round draft picks, whatever that looks like, it's so many moving parts that play into, getting that opportunity because they digging through crates of athletes from all over the country.
All over.
So you got to find something to make you stick out. But so just with those things, but I wanted to kind of talk about, after all of that, right, the decisions you made and, this and that, and just kind of what you feel like you could have been in a better opportunity, you still end up getting an opportunity, getting a call from the Rams and decide to go back, pretty much home in a sense. Can you talk about just that opportunity, just to even be, signed with them, with that opportunity? Yeah,
it was awesome. Obviously, during the draft, I was peed off, man. I'm talking about peed off. I was pissed. We was in Oregon at the time, and I'm downstairs at my mother-in-law's basement watching the draft. And I'm pretty sure, Dre, you experienced it too. You was like, bro, I know I'm better than him. he weak. I'm better than him. I'm for sure. So I'm doing that with all the receivers.
Yeah.
Even the number one receiver that came up. Oh, I'm better than him. You know, I probably wasn't, but I'm still saying it. Oh, I'm better than him. Like, you feel me? But you know, after the draft happened, my name call, I was like, okay, obviously, somebody gonna pick me up. Come on, for sure. Man, a whole day went by. I'm like, man, my phone gotta be bugging. I know T-Mobile be tripping sometimes, but like, I know I got service down here somewhere. Like, someone called me, I'm hitting up my agent, like, yo, did someone, you know, talk to you something, you know? Nothing. I'm like, yo, what's up? So literally, I stayed in my mother's basement for like 2 days in the dark by myself, didn't want to do nothing. So my wife came down the stairs and was like, hey, babe, come on, let's get out. You stink, man. You making this whole basement stink. Let's go. Let's go take a shower, go do something. So we was on our way to this one nice restaurant. You know, I'm cultured, so I'm trying to go get me some chicken and waffles. And and so as I'm hopping out the car on my way to getting in the restaurant, you know, I get a call from a California number. And I'm like, dang, man, I ain't trying to hear nobody from back home saying this wild story, like, oh, you should have made it and stuff like that. And so I pick up like, hello. Hey, this is Whoopty Whoop with Los Angeles. I was like, hey, how you doing? You know, it's tone switch. And so, like, obviously, it was like, yeah, we want to fly you out right now. I'm like, bet, I'm cool. So I'm all good. That was probably the best chicken and waffles I had because of that news right there. And the chicken and waffles was bland as hell. But you know, after getting that call and going out to Los Angeles, well, it was in Inglewood. It's the first year that they switched from St. Louis to Los Angeles. So we was in Inglewood. It was after the mini camp. My roommate at the time was Duke Williams, the former Auburn wide receiver. He should have been first round pick. He had some complications with his background, but he should have been the first round pick for sure. But he was my roommate at the time. I remember the first cuts was happening. Everybody getting text messages. I'm like, God, dog, man, I'm not trying to look at the message. I'm waiting till Duke look at his message to see if, like, you know, what's up. Because he was my roommate. We had like a two-floor apartment. He was upstairs, I was downstairs. So I was like, hey, you get that message, bro? He said, yeah. What yours say? And I was like, cool, we good. So we both went to the cafeteria. We was having fun with people in the cafeteria. And then it was sad, bro. I'm telling you, it was sad because we was walking out and we was seeing everybody like, all right, bro, you stay up. Dre, you know those conversations. Hey, you gonna be good, bro. Stay up. You gonna be good. Keep your head up. Keep grinding. But I'm the dude giving, like, stepping other people up. Like, hey, stay up, stay up. Man, training camp was about to be the following day. They shipped us out to Santa Monica to go to get physicals. Me, Duke, and Jabari. He was from Alabama. He was a cornerback. We were going to get shipped through the physicals right before training camp to make sure we prepped in. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm nervous as shit. My bad. I made me curse. I'm nervous as heck because, you know, my prior injuries. I'm like, dang, I hope nothing shows up. You know, I'm good to go. I made it this far. I'm good. Man, after that dang 4 to 6 hour freaking physical I had as far as the blood work and all that, you know, I'm nosy as heck. And so they gave me an envelope afterwards, and we all looking at our envelope. You know, they got A's and B's on their physicals, like grade. I'm looking at mine. My stuff said C-, bro. My stomach dropped. I said, a C-, bro, C-. And then they were like, no, you good, bro. You good. You this far. You good. Ain't nothing gonna happen. Bro, why the intern come from the elevator? Like, all right, guys, let's head out. Hey, K. Scott. Hey, can you talk to me for a minute? I was like, yo, what's up? What's going on? Hey, Coach Fisher wanted me to let you know that I was like, come on, bruh. Nah, not right now. But that whole car ride back to the airport, man. But bro was the coolest intern ever. Coolest intern. But like at that moment in time, I was not trying to hear no motivational stuff he was trying to tell me. But so that moment right there was hard for me, man. Like going through that whole thing, having an opportunity. I'm right there. We preseason right there. And man, injuries. Like my prior injury, like physical grade, failed that thing. I was like, come on, man. Come on. And so, yeah.
Wow. So after your time ended with the Rams, you signed with the CFL. Talk about that experience.
Man, that was the craziest experience of my life. So after the Rams, you know, I'm over here like, okay, I'm not going to talk with any CFL because I want to keep vetting out the NFL because I know somebody going to get injured, something going to happen. I'm going to get on the practice squad, something. So I'm waiting it out for a couple months. And so I'm like, all right, a couple months has been waiting. Like the Dolphins and Vikings, they was BSing, man. I'm like, y'all keep on saying the same stuff every week. Yeah, we're gonna bring you in this week. So I'm cool, let's go. They BSing. So I'm like, look, I'm gonna take the safe route. I'm gonna go ahead and go to CFL lane real quick. And so I signed with Montreal. I didn't want to sign because it was ending towards the ending of their season. So I was signing for the following season. And so I signed with them. And so that experience was great. Going to training camp, man, it was different. I'm gonna tell you that. I'm in the huddle. Some guy speaking French. I'm like, what is he saying? Like, it was just crazy. And then the offense, you doing all this motioning beyond the play, and like in this play style, I'm the slot now. I'm not an outside receiver no more. I'm a slot, and so I was known as like a slot back, like the bigger receiver, but like a tight end type. And then so I was known as a slot back. But I guess it's kind of the theme of the whole podcast. It was about maybe a week before training camp started. I'm a hooper. I'm trying to get my Russ Westbrook on. So I went to Ross, neighborhood local store to get you your discounted shoes. I go to Ross. I pick up some shoes. They have some J's, about $25. I said, what? Bet discount. I didn't break them things in. I went straight to the gym. Man, after that night of playing basketball for 3 straight hours, I was trying to get some cardio in. I had a blister on the bottom of my foot to where I couldn't walk. So I'm hobbling into training camp. They like, everything's good? Yeah, I'm good. Just give me some bandages, wrap my thing up. And they kind of go back. Like during practices, special teams is starting to happen. I told y'all, I don't do special teams. No, sir. I'm a receiver. And so that hindered me. So after training camp, I balled out, did my thing. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. Where am I playing? It was a day before we was about to head to Canada, right, for the preseason. So I'm looking at my email. Okay, anytime now, they're gonna see my itinerary to hit it. My homeboy got his, so I'm for sure about to get mine. I ain't hear nothing that I got released or anything, so I'm good. Man, it was about a couple hours later. I'm like, yo, what's my itinerary? I'm calling people. They ain't picking up. I go on Twitter. I'm scrolling through Twitter. The following players have been released. I said, yo, they ain't even call me. Like, where they do that at? Like, my agent didn't even know that I got released. So I'm over here still thinking I'm an Alouette. And I'm over here like, no, you ain't. Like, it was crazy. I'm like, what's going on? And so that was, a dang injury, and then plus me not playing special teams, because in the Canadian Football League, only a certain amount of Americans can be on the team. And so during that time, I didn't have no value. The other receivers playing special teams, I'm not. And that hindered me, and so they had to let me loose. Great player, you don't have enough value.
Wow.
Dang.
Man, that's a story in itself, man. Just, again, like you can be a phenomenal position player, but again, just the more you can do, the more value you add. But that's just so unfortunate, man. It just seems like you just got challenge after challenge after challenge. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but ultimately, like our podcast, there had to be some light at the end of the tunnel. So because after that CFL situation and moving on from there, like kind of what was the process to you saying, okay, it's time for me to move forward. I got to figure out how to provide, talk about just the adjustment going from being an athlete to trying to now make this move in the workforce.
Yeah. So initially that transition for me was, okay, what's my next move? During that time, my wife was pregnant with our oldest child. And so she was living in Oregon and I had moved back to Utah just so I can have a place to stay. Because right now, I couldn't go back home because because about 6 months ago, 6 months at that time, my mother had passed away. So I literally didn't have nowhere to go. I don't know, my stepfather and my mom at that time, they divorced. So like the person I connected with and grew up with, and he taught me everything, I no longer had a connection with. So I'm really out here on my own. Like I don't know where to go. And so my scholarship donor family from University of Utah, they provided me with a place to stay so that I can live, because I didn't have no place to go back home to California. I didn't want to go back living with my mother-in-law's place, like, you know what I'm saying? Because I just felt like man, go get a job. Like, you a bum, go get a job. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I just felt like, man, I didn't want to leave that spot. So I was like, man, look, I'm just going to stay in Utah for a little bit, get my feet wet. And so it hit me hard because my wife was pregnant and she said, I ain't moving with you until you get a stable job and you get a house for us. Like, I'm not going to be like being unstable. I'm not doing that. And that hit me. I'm like, dang, so I had to get on my grind. So T-Mobile thing, you know, they reached out to me. They're like, hey, I see that you're a former athlete, whoop-de-whoop. Bro, I ain't never did sales in my life. You know, and so that transition for me, you know, I worked in a nonprofit organization where I worked in a women's shelter. And I was the guy that was a case manager, reaching out, trying to get them the SNAP, all the welfare programs, trying to get them connected, get back on their feet. And then I transitioned to a fatherhood program where I help incarcerated male individuals get back and teaching them healthy parenting, healthy relationships, and financial literacy. And so during that transition, I learned how to communicate with people, learn how to consult, learn how to listen. And so I told them, like, look, I may not have had sales background before, but I know how to talk and consult with people to get a job done and negotiate. And so T-Mobile provided me that. The transition went real well for me. I ended up being top 10% in the whole T-Mobile as far as a salesperson. I think it was out of 900, I was number like 25 or something like that out of the whole company. And then I moved up to another sale, and then they felt that I did so great of a job as a seller that they wanted me to train other sellers, right, to how to do the job. And so I transitioned to a sales trainer where I coached 141 account executives how to be a better salesperson. And so after I did that job, and that's when I went from a macro to a micro to have my own team of sellers of 9 right now. I currently got 9 sellers on my team. And so that transition right there was, at first it was tough because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't even know what my purpose was. I was just an athlete. And so that transition, just going through those obstacles, you know, making the most out of those opportunities that I had, kind of led me to be where I am currently as far as a sales leader. And then it kind of, I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about it, kind of molded me into developing the curriculum that I have to teach student athletes how to sell and market themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Man, that is such a interesting just story and adjustment, but more to the point that I want to highlight is how just former athletes in terms of the ability to adjust, you know what I mean? Like the good ones really, like, you know, like companies should really target former athletes and just in terms of just kind of building out their business because they understand structure, they understand putting that work in, they understand just adjusting to circumstances. And when you kind of do it well, you find a Kenneth Scott that can kind of find his way. And then now you found this diamond in the rough. You know what I mean? Like, that's such an amazing story. And like I said, I can relate to it in so many different ways. As a former athlete, going into different arenas, my first opportunity leaving, I played at a HBCU, had an opportunity to work in retail, oil and gas, work my way up, became a manager, but I left and said I wanted to go pursue a career in sports. My first job was at Rice. I'm a kid from Miami, inner city housing project.
Yeah.
You know, how do I survive in an environment of Rice University?
That's crazy.
I did it. I killed. You know what I'm saying? Like just the adjustment though. But I wanted to speak to that, man. Just athletes, former athletes, and just the ability for them to adjust is something that I think employers should really look at because you can really have, you know, guys such as yourself that really can excel because it's all about finding that, finding who you are really, like that comfort space and being able to get confident in who you are and just get poured into. And sales is like really that ultimate because you're going to get so many different motivational, inspirational things that help you be successful. Man, it's
so true.
Yeah,
you hit it right on the nail right on the head, man.
So talk about why you decided to become a speaker.
You know, really, the reason why is because I felt like I had a duty in a way from all the things that I had went through. I know that for me, I think the biggest thing for me is I wish I had a mentor that could have navigated me through the processes of literally everything, my school, college, to transition into the NFL, all that. I think it would have helped me navigate through the system. But as a speaker, I don't really look at myself as a speaker. I look at myself as an educator. You know, I was doing that in college, you know, during my summertime. We, had a little bit of time off away from, physical activities. We just had weight room and stuff. But, I would go out and speak to juvenile detention centers, gang prevention, suicide prevention. I would go on the news channel. I would do everything as far as just speaking, just getting my name out there, my brand as a speaker. And people just like, hey, can you come speak to my team? Yeah, for sure. Let's go. And so that just came naturally from people hearing my story, through college. And so, yeah, that's just how it just came from college, doing it, and telling my story.
So in 2020, you founded Maximizing the Student Athlete, right? M.T.S.A. Can you talk about how that came about and just overall, what is that? What is that program?
Yeah, so it's an educational program. And so basically I develop, I conduct workshops for student athletes, especially prospective student athletes that's wanting to get to the next level. And sort of like the whole thing throughout this podcast, it's like, if I knew back then what I know now, I'd be whatever, right? Filling in that blank. And so I took that idea and was like, man, if these kids knew it, then obviously it's going to propel them to the next level. And that's why I love you guys' podcast name, HYPE, Helping Young People Excel, because that's what my aim is, right? Is to educate them on, get your grades right, man. You closing in on all the opportunities because you want to be a knucklehead and chase around these girls. Nah, be in them books, bro. Right? So, or, hey, listen, you may not be a Division I athlete, bro, but there's a ton of D2 schools out there, right? Go to the NCAA site, pull up all the Division II schools, reach out to the athletic site, look at the staff directory, write down all the position coaches' name and the recruiting coordinator, go and get their email, their phone number, create a structure, create a target audience that fits you, right? Understand, like, you need to get into the eligibility center, right? Understand what's the difference between an account and a profile page, right? Just understanding all those nuances. Like, you don't have to get a full ride scholarship. There's other grants and aids, needs-based things that can get you to school for free, right? It's just so about education. And that's one of the things that I'm like really passionate about is, providing that education to the student athletes so that they won't end up in the position of myself or the people that say, man, if I knew back then what I know now, man, I'd be, right? So I'm trying to help them help themselves by educating them. You know what I'm saying? So that's the reason why I do what I do as far as conducting workshops with schools.
No, that's amazing. And I know we're going to wrap up here, but I know, again, much like your story, man, I've had some undue challenges that I wouldn't have designed myself, right? I wouldn't have said, hey, go through this. But when you are able to experience something that you can then, understand what it is and then be able to realize how you can be impactful with that, and how all of our experiences are meant to be shared to help somebody else, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. So like, you're taking exactly some of the very challenges you had and now putting it in a place like, man, if I knew now, or if I knew back then what I know now, I would be so much further. So with that being said, I'm going to give it to you, right? So that you don't have to experience some of those things, man. You can go further than I did. And it's all about education. Again, like, a lot of us think that it has to be only D1. Like, I got to go D1. I got to figure this out. What I mean? Like, there's guys getting drafted from Division III. We had my guy, God dog it, from Mount Union, Cecil Short. Sorry, my guy.
Oh
Cecil
yeah, I know.
Short,
I heard Cecil from the Jaguars.
From a Division III school, be drafted to the NFL and play, a nice little amount of time. So it's, even Adam Thielen. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys. You know what I mean? So you don't have to go Division I. You don't have to go to the big school. If you figure out and find out, like you said, do the research, school that fits you, where you can be successful, get an education, build relationships, you never know where they can lead you. Man. So I commend you.
Great. Man, I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
For sure. So in closing, what's your ultimate goal moving forward?
My ultimate goal moving forward will be expanding from the high school level to reaching the college level. And then, just keep expanding from there and go from a micro as far as just right now where my hub spots are as far as like Houston to bridging out to Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, then bridging out of state to Utah, Texas, wherever, right? Just keep on bridging, And that's my ultimate goal. And then start doing it on a college level, like teaching them about the transition, right? And what to prepare for. and making sure that they're comfortable with that, because there's going to be a time where, right, we all have to put down the game. Like 100% of athletes have to retire at some time. Like it's inevitable. Like so you got to be prepared for that. And so that's what I want to do. You know, start with the high school kids, right? Then branch my way up to the college folks. And then, like, it's crazy because right now I deal with my sales team and I teach them the same foundations and the disciplines that I learned through football. And so now how can I captivate that audience as far as on the business side? Right. It's funny. I joke around, but like, I'm thinking of like my company's name is Maximizing the Student Athlete. Well, in sales, right, they're all athletes as well. And so I was like, well, let me figure out a trigger. What about maximizing the sales athlete and teaching business executives how to conduct themselves as athletes and having that desire, the discipline, the work ethic, grit to overcome those adversities that they may face so that they can reach the next level and things like that. So that's something else that I'm putting in place too. So as far as thinking in the future, those are some of the things that I'm working on right now. I'm trying to, you know, brand and build.
Man, absolutely, man. I just applaud, you know, what you're doing. A lot of conversations and things that I have with guys from being on, even on the pro level, you'll be surprised the impact or the what you can bring to that, because guys who transition from the NFL level, the drop off is sometimes even harder. It's even more difficult because they've been able to reach that level and be and receive that high to having to call it quits and then make the adjustment to life after that, not knowing where to start. You know what I mean? Like, and it's similar, just some of the experience, the literal experiences you had can be shared even at that level. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that to say that, you know, it can even go beyond just the college level, but for sure, man, everything that you're doing, and the market is there for it. So we want to support however we can. Glad and definitely appreciate to have you on our podcast to share this, to share your story, man, and we can hopefully try to get it out there. Dre, man, anything else you have for him?
Man, nice meeting you, bro. You got a great story, man. Nice to meet you, dog. Nice to meet you for sure.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Y'all boys, man. I'm glad you reached out, man, because this is much needed. I feel like in life you got to make connections with people, and this is just another layer of a connection that, you know, we can all lean on each other for and build on something else, right? You just never know, and so it's always good to network. And appreciate you boys having me on, and hopefully this ain't the last time that we all connect with each other and we can do something outside of this and, you know, build a bigger community.
Sure.
Absolutely. So again, man, we appreciate you having us on, man. To our audience, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this content, because again, you know somebody, whether it be a high school athlete, somebody who has hopes of making it to that next level, and just these stories that we're able to share can help them navigate some of that. But again, we appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time.